So good afternoon and welcome to our March already, our monthly revenue virtual recruiting call. So we do these calls on a monthly basis for the most part. We skip a few depending on staffing and holidays where it gets busy and we know we don't have people attending, but all of our calls are recorded and they are on our website. So you can go there at tax.illinois.gov and you can see other recorded sessions. This session, the topic on resume basics was a request from a previous call that we did and asked for suggestions, and they asked for us to do a deeper dive into the resume and how to build your resume for the state because it is different. So we're going to have a few slides in the beginning to do kind of a overview, and then we'll get into the meat and potatoes. So I want to make sure that you can see my screen. And do you have the full screen or do you have, let's see here, will it go from the beginning? Can you get, Millie, can you see that? Yes? Yes, okay, perfect. I lose the ability to see the chat box when I go into this mode. So two of my colleagues are on the call with me this afternoon. Millie and Cassie are on to help with questions. I encourage you to put those questions in the chat box. We try to make sure we have time at the end so that we can answer all the questions. We have over 100 people registered for the event today. So in some days we get 100 questions. So we try to get to all of them. My name is Julie Love. I'm the manager of recruitment and retention here at IDOR. And as I mentioned earlier, we do these on a monthly basis. This is my disclaimer. I am not a tax expert. I am not an attorney. I don't pretend to ever be one. I'm just here today to give you information on helping you with your resume. I will give you lots of information. You like some of it, you might not like all of it, and that is fine. You will not hurt my feelings. I always tell people, use what works and feels good to you and just let the rest fall to the side. So the mission of IDOR, if you've been on the call before, then you know our vision, our purpose is to collect taxes in the state of Illinois. We do that in a fair and consistent manner. Our agency director oversees a budget of about $240 million and coordinates a tax structure of around $67 billion. Those dollars are collected. We have to ensure that all tax revenues are efficiently collected and then properly deposited and processed. We coordinate that with the comptroller's office and the treasury office, and then we turn around and issue tax refunds and make state payments in a timely manner to everyone. So that is our purpose. A little history of IDOR. We have been around since 1927 when the gasoline tax was enacted. It is now, we now process over 80 different types of taxes. We have about 1,300 plus employees. The majority of our jobs and our employees are located in that building you see right there in the background. That is the Willard Ice Building in Springfield, Illinois. Again, most of our jobs and employees are located here in Springfield. We do have other offices. I'll get to those in one more slide. But first, let's talk about taxes. We get it. They can be complicated. They can sometimes be hard to understand and interpret. And for that reason, every single day, we have highly skilled professional staff that help the citizens of Illinois navigate their tax questions. And for that reason, it's very important for our employees to reflect not only the diversity, but also the individualism of the Illinois citizens. So we get questions on these calls. Is there an age limit on how old I have to be? There is not. So we want to make sure that we stress that message. Now, earlier I mentioned the different offices. Here are the locations. As I mentioned, Springfield, Illinois is our largest facility. We also have offices, 2 up north, Des Plaines in Chicago, and then also Rockford a little bit further west. And we have 2 down south, Marion, Illinois, and Fairview Heights. Now you'll notice on here it says remote, depends on the position, the person, and the program area. There are no actual remote jobs. There are jobs that can be performed work from home, and depending on the situation, then yes. The example I always give is, if I'm processing taxes, do you want me to process your taxes at home on my kitchen table where my neighbors are coming in while I'm working, or the handyman's there to fix something, or my kids are milling around getting a snack after school? No, you want your confidential information to remain confidential and secure. So there are just some jobs that cannot be done from home. And for that reason, we have to evaluate that. It depends on the program area, it depends on the position, and also, is the person someone who can work from home, meet their objectives? So it depends. Now, the next few slides, I will not go over each bullet on here. I am going to point out a few of the highlights on here. The first is, one of the greatest things about revenue is our work-life balance. We have a 37.5-hour work week. We all might occasionally work a little bit right now extra during tax season in tax land. Generally, we have a Monday through Friday work schedule with your evenings and your weekends free. We have a very robust time off package, very generous. We just calculated today for a questionnaire we were working on. In the first year, depending on your hire date, you could potentially get up to over 50 days off in your first year working for the state. That includes your vacation, personal time. It's prorated, so it kind of depends on when you start, your sick time, holidays. So that's one of the greatest things about working at the state of Illinois. The last item on here is the parental leave, where we allow 12 weeks of paid leave for moms and dads to be home with their child. So the next slide talks about benefits. We offer some fabulous benefits working at the state. The most important thing on this slide is that your health, vision, and dental, you get day one. There is no waiting period on there. And there's lots of other programs that we offer. Some of them you pay for, some of them are complimentary, but they are available. Under finance wellness, there are a couple of key points on here to talk about. The first is the PSLF program, or Public Service Loan Forgiveness. We are an employer who qualifies for that program still, or as of right now. So that is a definite advantage to working for the state of Illinois. Tuition reimbursement, not every state agency can offer that. We do at Revenue up to $5,000 a year. And my colleague Millie, I love to highlight her because she's such a success story. She went back to school and got her MBA and has received a couple promotions. So it really pays to look into that tuition reimbursement program at Revenue, go back to school and finish a degree or get an advanced degree. The other two items are retirement deferred comp. This is an area that a lot of young people looking for jobs really, really want. They've seen both sides of this. So the workforce right now has potentially parents that are still working and have to still work because they don't have a retirement plan, or maybe they worked for a company that offered a retirement plan and they're seeing how what a great benefit that is. So that is something that the state offers. We do offer an actual retirement plan, and then also that deferred compensation plan, which is an extra kind of bonus where you can put money away for long-term for retirement. This is one of the greatest benefits that we have available at the state. It is a well-known secret that we offer career counseling through CMS, one of our sister agencies. You can send your resume to this email address and schedule a time through email for them to review your resume and give you feedback. The state of Illinois has thousands of job titles. We know the job titles at Revenue and can talk about those. We just don't know all of the job titles across the state, and these counselors do. They know more than we do about this. So it's in your best interest to send your resume. It's free. They can review it and tell you which job titles that you would be a good fit for. So I highly encourage you to reach out to CMS and look into this service. If you are from outside of the United States and you have a college degree, you might get a letter if you submit a resume to CMS that looks like this. And basically it is that they are unfamiliar with your international school and you need help getting credits and transferring those credits. There are services that are available and they will send you this letter and encourage you to work with a third party to get your credits from that international university into credits that will apply towards the state of Illinois. So again, a service that is provided. Now, this is the beautiful picture of our brand new landing page, and you'll see up there circled right at the top, it says employment, and I could almost shed a tear or two because this is something I've been trying to get for many years. So it's one click now versus 2 or 3 clicks. Right there at our landing page, tax.illinois.gov, right there it says employment, and when you click on that, it takes you to our brand new spiffy section on employment. So we have a couple of different things on there. I encourage you to go out and check it out. Our previously recorded calls are on there. We have information on there to help you navigate how to fill out and apply for jobs, and the job postings are on there. So I encourage you to go back out there and look. Now, if you click on job postings, it will take you to a page that looks like this. If you click on job postings and it is blank, that means there are no jobs posted for revenue right now. It is infrequent, but it does happen. Right now, today we might even have more. When I updated this PowerPoint for today's call, we had these 2 particular jobs, and they are at both ends of the spectrum: office clerical, and then a senior public service administrator for a deputy chief administrative law judge. I would highly encourage you to go out to either our page or the state Work for Illinois main page and click on titles and read what the jobs entail, because sometimes the titles for jobs don't always match up or make sense. They can be a little tricky. So I would encourage you to go out there and look at the job titles and get a feel for the types of jobs that exist. Again, if you use that career counseling service, they can help you with that. Now, once you're interested in a job and you see this office assistant title and you think, oh, that would be perfect, now you click on it. It's going to give you a lot of information. At the very top of the job posting for every state job, it should have the same information. It might be a little off, we'll get into that, but it'll have the job title, where it's located, a job rec number, the agency, the title, any skill options that are required. Encircled there in black, highlighted, closing date and time. Some agencies put a time on there, some do not. But the most important part of this section is the closing date, because once you hit April 9th, this job will no longer be there. You'll go to look for it and it'll be gone. So you have to pay attention to that closing date. It lists the salary on here. You'll see that this is a union job. It gives the monthly range, $36.58 to $46.95. And it also says anticipated salary for non-state, $36.58. And I know several of my friends say, well, I have all kinds of experience and I'm going to come in and ask for $46.95. And that's great, you can ask. However, you are most likely not going to get that amount. Our salaries are regulated by the union. There are steps involved in those salary ranges. And for the most part, we do have to start at the beginning of the range. There could be a couple of situations where you can go a little over, but generally you will start at that published salary that's in the job posting. Tells you what type of job it is, salaried. It tells you the county, which is Sangamon, and very important, number of vacancies for this job, there are 4. And that plan/BU tells you that it is a union position because it starts with RCO and there's numbers behind it. And each of those numbers represent a different union. That's a lot, I know. Now you get into the essential functions of the job. So it's going to tell you what you're going to do every day. And you'll see this one has 7 essential functions, and there's a few sections that are highlighted. The reason I highlighted them because many times the essential functions appear later as maybe interview questions or application questions. Again, key takeaway, print out or keep the electronic version of the job posting so that if you apply for 25 jobs and you get notification that you got selected for an interview, you can remember. If you've applied for 25 jobs, you might not remember all the titles. So if you keep the job postings, you can go back and look at what those essential skills are so that you can refresh yourself and then look and say, okay, there's a high probability. Number 5 says monitor progress and completion of special projects. So a question could be, tell us about the type of special projects that you've worked on in the past. Number 6 says performs project assignments, and it talks about highly confidential information. So there might be a question of, tell me about a time when you've, or what type of confidential information you've worked with. So you really want to read through the essential functions and get an idea of what the job entails. Now, what's the difference between the min quals and the preferred quals? I get this question asked a lot at career fairs. The minimum qualifications, you have to meet those. In this case, for this job, there are 2 of them. If you do not meet these 2 min quals, you will get an email and let you know that you did not qualify. The preferred quals are the extra. So let's say, for example, we have 100 people that meet the min quals. How do we winnow that list down? So the preferred quals are questions looking for additional job skills, information, experience. If you have any of that information that they're asking under the preferred quals, you definitely want to make sure that you put that on your resume and or your answer when you apply for the job. You just want to make sure that if you have it, that's great. If you don't, we understand. Now, the conditions of employment at Revenue are extremely important. So 2 things. We require a tax compliance and fingerprint background check. We check to see your taxes are paid. If they're not, we'll help you set up a payment plan, but we also do a fingerprint background check. Because we have a daycare in our building, we have to do that on all employees. And you might ask, well, if I'm in Chicago, why does it matter? Because you might transfer to the Springfield office where the daycare is, and we have to make sure that fingerprint background check is done on all of our employees. Some employees come into our building in and out, so it just, to be safe, we do it on everyone. Now, let's get into the meat. Oh, let me go back and say at the bottom of this, you'll see the work hours, Monday through Friday from 8 to 4:30. The work location is here in Springfield at this location where we are. There is an agency contact, and the posting group is just part of our system. You don't really have to worry too much about that. So you want to make sure that you read through the entire posting. You know exactly what the job entails. You know how to apply for the position. You know where the location of the job is. Make sure that if it's in Springfield and you live in Chicago and say, I'll assume that it might be remote, I'll just apply. You have to be able to work in the office where the location is posted on that job posting. So now let's get into the meat and potatoes and talk about public service resumes. So I will go back and forth through this workshop and give you a little bit of feedback on outside resumes and state resumes. Outside resumes are companies like Walgreens or Chase Bank or AT&T or Apple. That's not a public entity. State of Illinois or any federal agency that you might be applying at. So 2 separate kind of paths. Normally on a resume, when you're working in the for-profit sector or private sector, you want to make sure that your resume is very succinct. It's a page or 2, depending on your experience. You've got lots of bullet points on there, but it is very compact and does a nice overview. State of Illinois, you want this to be a completely different resume. Second thing, no limit on the number of pages submitted. So last week I was in Chicago, met with several hundred people, and they all said the same thing. Really? Yep, the longer the better. And here's why. You want to put every job you've ever had. A job you did in junior high, high school, you were paid for, that you gained job skills. Any jobs in college that you had that you gained job skills, and your entry-level jobs. So while sometimes you'll hear, well, only go back 10 years of work history, when you are applying for the job with the state of Illinois, you do not want to do that. You want to put all of your work history. You want to write it so that you're assuming the person reading your resume has no prior knowledge of any of your work history or the jobs you performed. You want to make sure that you don't use any acronyms or put things on there that wouldn't make sense to someone evaluating your resume. You want to spell everything out as plainly as you can. Now, there's a little controversy on objectives. Do you need one or don't you need one? And here's the thing, and I will lean on my two colleagues here, Millie and Cassie, to share their experience on this. I don't think it's as necessary when you apply for the state to have a job objective on your resume. Millie shaking her head yes, so I think she agrees with me. It's not as important. If you are applying for one of those positions at Apple or Walgreens or McDonald's or Chase Bank, then yes, you do want that on there. And here's why. They meaning the recruiter is getting bombarded and with applications and resumes. And the idea of the resume is to get your foot in the door to get the interview. So you want to be as succinct in that resume as possible. So for profit, outside businesses, if you use it, make sure it clearly states what role you're looking at. Sometimes people do transition. If I left HR and went into teaching or went into engineering, they would look at my resume and say, well, why? You don't have any experience. Your objective can be very helpful, indicating that you're making a career change. So you can look to do that. But what you don't want to do is just talk about yourself. I this, I that. You want to make sure that it states the role you're interested in, your highest qualification, and the third part shows what you can do for that company. And here is an example. It would be a proven executive leader of multiple 500 million plus businesses across games, videos, apps, and music. So you can see how big of organizations they've worked for and the backgrounds of types of companies they've worked in. They have had global leadership experience in teams of 800 plus. They're a technical inventor and they have 60 issued patents. So it answers those questions. You're looking at, tell us what type of job you're looking for, first part. Tell us the second part, your highest qualification. And the third part shows what you can do for me as an organization. So again, if you're looking also at outside jobs, not just the state, and you do like objectives, here's some little bit of information for you on that. Now, again, company summary, to include or not to include. And here's the difference. So if I work for Google, large organization, and my job skills there would be different if I worked for a mom and pop organization. So you're helping that recruiter look at the job skills that you have and decipher my scope of what I'm capable of working with. If I work with a team of 25, or if I work at a company and I do 25 career fairs or workshops like this versus working at a large organization where I do thousands, there's a difference in that scope, and that helps the recruiter. So you can see the difference of, there's the example. I worked at ABC Company, was a global digital healthcare. ABC closed $3 billion in sales, valued at $75 billion. ABC had 36,000 employees worldwide, operations in the UK, Asia, Africa, and the USA. So that company summary gives you an idea of the scope that of the positions that you've been working in. Now, do you need it at the state of Illinois? It helps the recruiters here. Is it mandatory, 100% necessary? It's not, but it really does help the recruiters when they're evaluating the kind of the size of the organization that you've been working with. Here's a key slide. So a couple of things on here to please take away with you from today's call. Consider the level of your experience. Did you serve as a team lead or were you a team member? There's a difference. And explaining that on your resume when you work at the state gives you more points when you're being evaluated. Please include examples, excuse me, of your relevant experience and accomplishments. That proves that you can perform the duties of the position. Throughout this entire PowerPoint, you will see where it says, show your results, or show me what you're capable of doing. A lot of times what happens is folks just copy and paste their job descriptions, which is basically just job duties. And especially at the state, when they evaluate your resume, they want to know what you did. They want to know those job duties, but they want to know how successful you were. So you want to make sure you use numbers, percentages, any dollar amounts, cost savings, how you save time or money, anywhere where you can put some data or numeric information in there, you should. Here's some examples. So sometimes you'll see a resume that says, I'm a fast learner. Well, that's great, but back it up with the data. So in just saying, hey, I'm a fast learner, or I'm a team player, the examples are, I learned and applied X to project Y, going from first effort to customer shipment in 9 weeks. There's a lot of data in there that shows how quickly I learned about this project. Learned the new SuccessFactors system upgrades in 6 weeks, processed all backlog transactions, 12,000 of them in 4 months. That is a rock star. We'd be like, wow, okay, this person really knows their stuff. Difference in saying I'm a team player versus worked with multi-state team of 25 to implement new systems with no loss in production. So you want to try to spell that out as much as you can. Now, here's a couple different examples, and I'll go through them kind of quick. The first one you see is kind of long. There's lots of words there, blah, 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 versus the bottom one. Collected and maintained program financial evaluation and outcome data for 30 projects operating within the organization's $50 million budget. Again, that shows me what I accomplished, what I did, not just the activities that I'm doing in the job, but what did I do? What sets me apart? Again, example, created, developed company marketing strategy, promotional materials. Created and developed an 18-month strategic marketing plan, included and launched 20 new products, 2 new services. Promotional materials spanned 4 countries and resulted in a 35% increase in revenue. So that has a lot of data in there that backs up what I'm capable of doing. And trust me, you can do this to any job you have done. You can think about examples. If you're a teacher, you taught X number of students in X number of subjects. You implemented policies in your classroom. You introduced new learning material. If you're clerical person answering phones, you answered number of calls, you transferred them with a % of accuracy. If you are interviewing people, you interviewed 5,000 people and filled 2,500 positions. So you can put that data in there in any job that you have done. Here's a good one. Strong, empathetic leader, capable of delegating. You see that a lot on resumes, and that's great. But show me. I led a team of 5 marketing professionals for UK telecommunications company with 3,000 employees and 15 million in annual revenue. Another example. Proficient in creating and implementing strong marketing plans. That's great. Show me. Developed a 12-month social media marketing campaign for a 30-person PR agency covering LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and X, and grew followers by 30% in 9 months. So you kind of get the idea. Use as much data as you can. So a few more things. State of Illinois applications are reviewed by an actual human. Sometimes out in for-profit land, they're run through what's called an applicant tracking system. So it's a machine that's looking for keywords to see if you have those in your resume. At the state of Illinois, it is an actual human reviewing your application. That is why sometimes it takes a little while to hear back, because if you remember a few slides back for that office assistant, there's 4 openings. We could easily get 150, 200 resumes or applications for that position. And we have to go through each one of those to make sure that everyone meets those min quals and then go back and look at those preferred quals. So yes, it does take a little bit of time to go through that process. If you respond and when you start applying for the position and say, see resume, it is very likely that you will not get credit for the question, and it's very likely that your application could simply just be tossed. So you want to make sure when they ask the questions, when you apply for the position, do you have this much responsibility? Yes, tell us how. That you're very specific. I worked at XYZ company. This was the title I did. These were the dates I worked in this job. And these were the duties that I did, or this is what I accomplished when I was in there. You want to make sure you show effort in the application process, prove that you meet the minimum and preferred qualifications of the job description. You want to make sure you update your email to professional account. Again, maybe not so much with the state, but in the outside world, for-profit world, if my email is Purple Kitties, you might not be as viewed, Purple Kitties at Gmail. You might not be as viewed as professional as other Gmail account addresses. So you want to make sure you do use some type of a business, or at least something that's not so cutesy. Make sure that you name your resume when saving it. That helps. And submit your resume as a PDF. That helps as well. Now, the actual resume, the structure of it, you want to keep a couple of things and be consistent. So the trend is after COVID that you put your name, your email, and your phone number. Again, that's a trend. If you feel you're in love with your home address and your city and your state and want to put it on there, then that's fine. The trend right now is to not do that. We just need to know how to contact you. That's it. Now, education. Let's talk a little bit about that. Normally, when you're creating your resume, and ladies and gentlemen, there are all kinds of resume formats out there. I would strongly encourage you to go out to Google and look at different types of formats of resumes and find one that you feel comfortable with. This is your information. You're going to be presenting it. So you need to feel confident in the structure and format that you use of your resume. So if you want to use chronological, like I'm showing you here today, that's great. If you want to do more skill-based, that's fine too. The one rule of thumb on your resume when you build it or create it is whatever you have the most of, you're going to put at the top. So if you have just graduated from school recently and your education is most recent, you will probably put that at the top. If you have been working for several years, like myself, my professional experience will go first and my education will go at the bottom of that resume. Question is on, do I put a GPA on there or not? And again, this is something that you have to feel confident with. I don't put my GPA on there. Sometimes it's assumed if it's not on there that it wasn't very good. And if you want to not put it on there, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. Some recruiters have said, you know what, if it's not on there, I assume it's not good, and I don't necessarily know if I want that person working at my company. Other recruiters say, you know what, I don't care what it is. I just need to make sure they can do the job. So that's your preference. If you didn't finish school, still make sure you list what college and the number of hours that you do have on there. You still get, that still accounts for something. So if you if you didn't graduate, still list that on there. If you did graduate, again, if it was recent, you might want to put that on there. If it was many years ago, it's your choice of whether or not you list it or not. Now, you would then list your professional experience on there. So your job duties, just like we talked about before, you want to list your company. You might want to put that job summary that explains a little. So mine would say Department of Revenue, who processes taxes, 67 billion in taxes with 1,300 employees. Just a 1 or 2 sentence little summary of each organization that you've worked for. And then you list out your job duties. And again, you list them all out. I'm not saying that I supervise staff. I'm saying that I recruited, I trained, I coached, I mentored, I disciplined and terminated staff over my career. So they see I have the full scope. You want to make sure that you list all the job duties on your state of Illinois resume. I would encourage you to put it in a Word document and just blow it up. Think back if you have former performance evaluations you can use to go back and think about, oh yeah, I forgot in this job in high school, I did inventory. I need to put that on there. And this job fresh out of college, I worked with budget, so you want to put that in there. You may not be doing it in the job you're doing today, but you may have done it in a previous job. So you need to make sure you list that for those job titles from years ago. Now, the same thing with transferable skills. Again, if you put things like I'm a fast learner and I'm a team player and I make quick decisions, really what is better for the person reviewing that resume is if you can give examples on how you did that. So instead of just saying, I know Microsoft Office, I could say I used Excel in creating budget spreadsheets to manage a $14 million budget. I use PowerPoint to create workshops to help candidates find positions. So try to give an example of how you use the tool or that skill, that soft skill. Page 2 of your resume, make sure you put a name and a page 2 on there. So if it's actual paper and it gets printed and it gets separated, they can keep you together. And if you don't have professional experience that totally fits the bill, don't panic. There are transferable skills that you can use, and make sure that you do a strong cover letter to make sure you highlight. So if I'm changing careers from human resources to looking at college and universities and maybe working with students in career placement, I want to make sure I spell that out in my cover letter. After a successful career in HR, I am transitioning into a new field in career services at the university level. I feel like my experience working with applicants will map over where I can transfer those skills of working with students at the university level, or something like that. What to do with volunteer experience, and this is fresh off of CMS's recommendations. So can you put volunteer experience on your resume? And the answer is absolutely yes. If you have volunteer experience, add it to your resume for the credit. List the exact months you did it or years, and write duties that you did. So I was the treasurer for my neighborhood association, and I collected HOA fees and deposited those and issued checks and paid vendors, and I did it from 2009 until 2017. So you're very specific. It shows the job skills that I did. I emailed homeowners, I answered questions. So you want to make sure that you list that volunteer time. And this is the example that was shared with me. Candidate helped with bookkeeping for a church that they belong to, and they were able to note what they did, how they did it, the software they used, the volume, and when they did it. So absolutely make sure you include your volunteer experience. Now let's talk briefly about what to leave off. You don't need to put a note at the bottom of anything that says references upon request. That is for profit and for the state. We know that. If we need those references, we'll reach out and talk to you and ask you for those. But your resume is like location, 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 and you just don't need to put it on there. Again, your full address, if you're in love with your address and just feel comfortable not putting it on there, then include it. The trend today is to not put it on there. Any hobbies or interests. I know recruiters who say, I love seeing that because it tells me more about the person, and it helps explain what type of person they are and what their hobbies and interests are. I would say my 2 cents in doing this for 40 years is don't put it on there. Anything that would get you disqualified for a position, you just don't want it on your resume. So why take that chance if it's a job that you're in love with? Again, non-professional emails, I would change it to something that's a little more professional. Any kind of buzzwords, make sure you show those skills on your resume. And please don't over-exaggerate your achievements. You want to be truthful in this process. Now, final notes from me. So contact us at revenue.idorcareers@illinois.gov if you have questions. check out our new website. Our web pages at tax.illinois.gov. There's all kinds of resources out there for you. Join us each month for our monthly virtual calls. I will give a plug for end of April, early May. We're doing something a little different. We are having 5 sessions in the end of April, early May. They will be posted on our socials. You will get an invite from WorkNet like you did for this month's call. You do not have to attend all 5 of those sessions. We're just trying to offer them. So once a month we do this, and we try to stagger the date and time so that we can accommodate people's work schedules. And at the end of April, early May, we're doing kind of a bonanza, a spring fling, and we're offering 5 different seminars. It's the same content. It will just be different dates, different times. We're doing one in the evening and one on a Saturday. And it is pretty much an overview of how to apply at the state, a little bit about interviewing, and a little bit about resumes that we talked about today. So look for those to come. The first one starts Tuesday, April the 29th. I believe there are a couple on the 30th, maybe one on Thursday night and one on Saturday that week. So stay tuned. And lastly, make sure you sign up for job alerts. So earlier I mentioned that the positions are posted for 10 days, and if you go back on day 11 and it's gone, sometimes it takes a year for some positions to repost. So you don't want to miss out. If you sign up for job alerts, we'll let you know when jobs are posted. We will not send you any kind of tax information, just simply when jobs are posted. So it's worth it. You can stop those at any point in time. So I would encourage you to go out there and do that. So that is our official presentation, and it looks like they may have a lot of questions coming through. So are there any, Millie or Cassie, that you want to address as a large global group while we have everybody?
Yes, one that's come through quite a bit. They want to know if you will be posting the actual PowerPoint presentation anywhere. They know the call will be uploaded.
No, I am not allowed to actually post the PowerPoint. I can only post it showing it visually through the recorded call this afternoon. So if there's something that you needed in there, please email that Rev IDOR Careers, and I can try and cut and paste that for you. But I can't send the entire PowerPoint out, so I'm sorry.
I think most of the questions Cassie and I have been able to ask, some that are just popping through right now, you cannot get tuition reimbursement for spouses if you work at Revenue. That is only for employees, so we cannot get that for spouses. And then Steph B has a question about filling out information when applying through the CMS website. What type of question do you have? Can you put that in the chat? I mean, generally, you want to be very specific. Most agencies allow 2,000 characters for those responses. The more specifics you can give, the better, because that is also what CMS will be looking at when they're grading your application. If you go over the 2,000 limits, I'll be honest, what I've seen some people do is they'll abbreviate. Instead of spelling out number 3, they'll just put the number 3. Maybe instead of putting department, they'll just do DEPT. People will find ways to shorten it. One of the tips we've gotten from CMS is at a bare minimum, at least direct them to where they can find that information on your resume. Like, for example, I know Julie mentioned it. If you just put C resume, they're not going to take their time to go through what maybe 5, 10, or 15 pages. But if you can call out exactly where you gained that experience, that will help them find that information.
Thank you, Millie. And I want to clarify to Steph B. I have 28 years of experience, and sometimes it's hard to get that all in the box. And you are correct. With 40 years of experience, you got a lot. That's why I would encourage you to put everything in an Excel spreadsheet, and then you can cut and paste to that particular answer. So you can summarize So if they ask me if I have, 3 years of leadership experience, I would summarize and say, I have 25 plus years of leadership experience. And here are the companies that I gained that experience from. And I might put just those companies and then expand a little on the type of leadership experience. I manage teams as small as 1 and as large as 42 staff. So you don't have to put all of the detailed information in that box, and you can summarize, but what we want to try to emphasize is that you want to make sure you answer the question. Sometimes on the positions, we have what we call subject matter experts who are reviewing the applications, and sometimes they do not have your resume in front of them when they're looking for the answers to those questions. So you want to make sure, you also want to make sure that those answers when you apply match your resume. So if I say I have 5 years of experience frying French fries, and you go back to my resume, and if they have it or have to go back to it, and it says I only have 3 years frying French fries, there's a discrepancy. So you want to make sure the information, and again, can't stress it enough, that's why you want to go back and create your resume as many pages as you need in a Word document, and then cut and paste so that you can just utilize those same answers over and over. You don't have to retype it for each job that you're applying for. I hope that makes sense and helps. And Millie and Cassie, jump in.
Yes, I'm trying to catch some that are coming through. Someone asked about utilizing ATS to review resumes. I'll be honest, I don't know what that is, but as Julie mentioned, they are entirely reviewed by humans. We don't use any software that finds anything.
ATS is an applicant tracking system, and the state does
Okay.
not use it. So when you're applying at McDonald's and Walgreens, they probably do. And what the trend is that when you see a job posting, if the job posting talks about frying French fries or working with customers, you want to make sure that your resume has some of those keywords in it, so that when it goes through that screening, you will get put to the top of the stack and get called for a resume. The state of Illinois does not use an ATS system, so it is an actual human reading each application.
I know Viola asked if there was a way to reapply for a position. I'm going to say, unfortunately, not. Technically speaking, there is a way that you can adjust the information that you have submitted. However, we have been informed by Do It that when you apply initially, it captures all of that information, and that's all that CMS is going to see. So if you go back later and make corrections, CMS will not have that information. You will be able to see it, but CMS won't. So you wouldn't be able to truly reapply. Let's see. Someone asked about education on the resume. Should you include schools that you attended but did not graduate from? Would you say yes to that, Julie?
I would say yes to still put it on there and show, if you can, as many hours that you obtained from that university. Because again, it still shows that you went. And then if you went, if I started out at ABC College and then didn't graduate, but I went to XYZ College and did, you would for sure want to put that on there. But even if you went and got 20 hours of college credit, you can indicate did not graduate, but it still shows that you did go to college. I'm trying to see this question. Federal contractors, how would you recommend we denote changes in job title where no actual change in duties? Yeah, that's a great question. And Millie, you've seen a lot more resumes at the state than I have, so I don't know if you have any advice for that.
I would call it out to CMS when they're doing their review. So if you were in a job title, and I'm just going to make this up, if it's the office assistant, and then you're still doing the same duties, but all of a sudden it changes to an office associate, I would list both of those there and make a note on the bottom that the job title name changed, but all the duties remained the same, just so that CMS can track that information and follow it along. because they do look at all of that information and they look at all individual job titles.
Yeah, and I see, I think it's Chandra. I hope I pronounced that right. If I didn't, I'm so sorry. If you do not have a college degree in the field they're looking for, and it is a minimum qualification, will you get deemed not qualified for the position? And yes, you will. That's the key on those job postings, is the minimum qualification. You have to meet those for sure. So if it says you have to have a 4-year degree, you have to have the 4-year degree. So if you don't, now the one exception is, as after I say that, sometimes, especially for college seniors that might be applying for a job in March and they're graduating in May, we give them X number of days. Is it 180 days now, Millie, for the college
For the
seniors?
auditor.
Yeah, for the auditor title, that we know you're going to graduate in May, early June, and you have time to graduate and then upload your transcript to us for that position. But that's really the exception to the rule. For all the other jobs that require the college degree, you do have to have that.
And if there is a college degree or coursework that is required in a specific field, definitely upload transcripts or a copy of that degree, because CMS will be verifying that information as well to determine whether or not you're qualified. Trying to go through and see some other ones. Jacob John asking about IT professionals and IT manager jobs. That's something you'd want to look at for the Department of Innovation and Technology. Do it. That would be the agency that hires the IT positions for the state.
I am not sure. Elfrida asked a question about if you have a SERS pension. First, I'm jealous. Second, I'm allowed to work at a job that is less than 65 annual. I would say I would contact SERS and work with them to make sure of that and verify that. Many of the office level jobs are in the high 30s, low 40s. So you would the salary cap you would be okay with, but I would definitely talk to SERS and make sure that what will that do to your pension? I think it stops the pension, but I don't know.
That sounds right, but yeah, I would double check.
Yeah, that's out of my lane, so I don't want to answer for SERS. Yeah.
And Steph B asked about summarizing 4 years of college. If you have 2 years of college and then years of experience, just detail out all of your experience. Under your education section, like Julie pointed out earlier, you'll want to list the education, but then the rest of it, they're just going to go through your resume and look at your professional work experience. So you'll just want to be detailed with that.
And thank you, Sandy. Appreciate your very positive comment, and I'm glad you got some good information out of this. So that is our goal, and you just made my day. So thank you. Yeah, question about working extra hours during tax season, and yes. Now, I have not seen this. My first year at Revenue, I think it was first or maybe second year, they send out an email and ask for volunteers to help in tax land, what I call tax land. And you don't have to have tax experience. So you might be like opening envelopes or doing something pretty basic, which is all I can handle. But they'll ask for volunteers, and yes, you are paid for that. So you are paid overtime for working anything over the normal hours of your workday. So we work a 37.5-hour work week. So if you worked 50 hours, you would get overtime for 10 hours. Well, I don't know how it works for non-exempt staff. It should be either 10 hours or 13.75 hours, but you are paid for it. That I do know. So, and thank you, Terry. You're very welcome. Joey, thank you. And again, this session came up as an example of, we asked at one of our workshops, what do you want a workshop on? And overwhelmingly, the response was helping put together a resume for the state of Illinois. And that's how we came up with this topic. So if there are things that you are interested in and you want us to do a session on, please drop an email to that Rev IDOR's careers and let us know. Sometimes after these, there's a survey attached. Sometimes we forget, we meaning me, forget to attach the survey. Make sure that if you have any questions or you have an idea for a topic, that you put that in that revenue email account. And it is Rev, oh, can't type, IDOR careers at Illinois. Again, I can't type, .gov. We're almost at the top of the hour, so if there is, David asked about a drug screen, and no, we do not do a drug screen. I don't know if Millie said that and I didn't hear her, but no, we do not here. So thank you, Cassie, for talking about overtime. It looks like we got quite a few of your answers in here, questions answered. Again, thank you for your attendance this afternoon. Again, in April, late April, the first one starts April 29th. There are 5 different sessions. It will be an overview. It will be me again. I'm sorry. We'll talk about interviewing. We'll talk about filling out your profile for the state, setting up your account, and also talking a little bit about the resume. It's a very general overview session to help folks. So I encourage you to come back if you want, or help us spread the word for someone who may not know all of that information. And again, we're just trying to help as many people as we can with the process of getting hired on with the state. So I appreciate Millie and Cassie helping out today. Have we slowed down on questions?
We have, yes.
Okay, so it looks like we've covered everybody. I thank you for your time this afternoon. Have an amazing rest of your day. Be safe and be happy, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye, everyone.